They don't tell you you're going crazy. Daniel had learned that on his first visit to the psychiatrist. The guy had been very careful to avoid using that phrase. But when you start seeing things, hearing things, sleepwalking and digging up dead pets from the yard, there's obviously a cause for concern. That's what had sent Daniel to the shrink in the first place. The MRI and CAT scans had come back negative. From what the doctors could tell, nothing was physically wrong with Daniel, which was both reassuring and troubling at the same time. Because something was definitely wrong. And if it wasn't physical, then it had to be mental, psychological, which isn't exactly something a 16-year-old guy wants to hear. This was Daniel's fifth visit to see Dr. Fromke. As he waited in the lobby, he pulled out his phone and Googled, "Lost Cove is the key." More than 1 million results came up. Okay, that might be a bit much to check out at the moment. He whipped through the first couple dozen, but didn't see anything that seemed particularly helpful. After putting his phone away, he paged absently through the 4-month-old issue of Sports Illustrated that had been left on the coffee table beside his chair. A conversation he'd had with Nicole a couple weeks ago came to mind. She'd asked him what the difference was between someone who's a psychopath and someone who's psychotic. Well, for obvious reasons, he'd done more than his share of reading on the topic since October. Psychopaths, or sociopaths, whatever term you want to use, they know the difference between right and wrong, but someone who's psychotic doesn't. So, what about someone who has schizophrenia? He doesn't always know what's real and what's not. But right and wrong? From what I've read, he knows what's right, but since the difference between reality and his hallucinations is so unclear, he can't always be trusted to do it. Now, as he flipped through that magazine, he recalled the wolf legend and wondered if a person could be feeding the wrong wolf and not even know it. And if you could come to the place where you can't even tell the two of them apart. "Daniel Byers?" the receptionist called, then informed him that the doctor was ready to see him. He entered the psychiatrist's office, a cluttered desk with the pocket knife he used as a letter opener beside his inbox, a chair facing the couch, diplomas on the wall, a certificate for volunteering as a counselor at the Derthick State Penitentiary, a bookshelf with 28 books on it with a total of 471 letters on the spines. Daniel noticed the number. Couldn't help but notice. It was just that way with anything dealing with math, with numbers. Dr. Fromke looked like he was about the same age as Daniel's father, but was mostly bald and had a somewhat scraggly beard. He rose from his chair to shake Daniel's hand, then gestured toward the couch. "Please, have a seat." After Daniel sat down, the doctor settled back into his chair and said, "How are you feeling today?" "I'm good." "Any headaches recently?" "No." Dr. Fromke wrote something on his notepad, then dove right in. "And what about blurs? Have you been having any more?" Actually, Kyle was the one who'd come up with the term blur for the times when fantasy and reality, or maybe it was sanity and insanity, merged for Daniel. The word had stuck, and back when Daniel first told Dr. Fromke what was going on, he'd found himself naturally using it. Since then, the doctor had opted for it as well, rather than hallucinations. "No," Daniel told him now. "No blurs." "But what about what happened in English class? Writing that phrase over and over. Does that count?" "No, that was just you being distracted." "But what about—" "I'm glad to hear that," Dr. Fromke said, drawing Daniel out of his thoughts. He was hoping the doctor wouldn't ask him if he was taking his meds. He didn't want to admit that he'd been getting rid of them, flushing the pills down the toilet each day, but he also didn't want to lie. It'd probably be better all around if the subject didn't come up. Thankfully, Dr. Fromke didn't go there. "How have you been sleeping?" "Good." "No sleepwalking?" "Nope." "And things with your parents? Tell me how that's been going." "Everything's going okay. With my dad, at least." Daniel wasn't exactly sure how to explain how things were with his mom. That was a little more complicated. She'd moved out last spring, hadn't told anyone why,